Oh, there we
Eh,
go. Yeah.
ok, finally, we're live. Hola, soy Crypto Bernie, les doy la bienvenida a un nuevo video de mi canal. Les pido excusas por la demora. Estamos acá con Tyler de Alpha Shares y voy a cambiar a inglés. Hi Tyler, this is Bernardo, Crypto Bernie from. I'm really happy to have you here. I'm a real fan of what you do and welcome home and welcome to Crypto Bernie YouTube channel.
Well, thank you for having me, Bernie. You've been a big supporter of us for quite some time. Always making a ton of content in Spanish, so I appreciate that. My Spanish isn't the best, and so I do appreciate that you're helping us get the word out to other people in South America because we are in Paraguay, and it only makes sense to have some Spanish content creators like yourself. So thank you.
Yeah, the project is just a couple blocks from here. It's I don't know how no, but Latin America, is huge. So
Yeah.
Paraguay is an amazing country, but it's one of our friends, and I know it's a pro Bitcoin country right now. So just to start, before anything we talk about it specifically about alpha mining, tell me about you, tell me about your team, and what are you doing in Paraguay at this moment?
Sure. So obviously, myself, I am the CEO of Alpha Shares. I am one of the co-founders. At this point, Alpha Shares has become a pretty big brand, and we've done quite a few things. And so, when it first started, it was just a token, and I was a co-founder, and John Bad Shogun was the other co-founder. But since we've developed operations in Paraguay, our team has grown, and so we do count the other people that are helping us out with the entire Alpha Mining Cooperation as co-founders as well. So we've got Randy, Curtis, Bert, John, and myself. And what we're doing here is really trying to create unique experiences. That's the mission statement for Alpha Shares, is to it's to leverage Web3 technology and create unique experiences. And it sounds vague, but it's because we're really trying to accomplish a number of things, with the most recent one being our venture into Paraguay and starting a Bitcoin mining farm down there. So very excited to talk more about it today with you. And I'm glad that you know so much about what we've got going on. And again, another big thank you for always being such a good supporter of us.
No, it's really a pleasure to have you here. I'm really impressed of what everything you've done, because you have turned from Alpha Token, Alpha Shares, that is a marketplace for the people that don't know. You can sell there your NFTs, so you can go there, buy and sell NFTs from every all kind of collections. There's a lot of opportunities there. I recommend you to watch them because I like them. You turn I knew about you when you started Momentum. That's my first moment I got into Alpha Shares ecosystem, and then I learned about you doing this Paraguay thing. So I have a lot of questions about Paraguay, and I believe these people want to know what are you doing and why we are here, because this is what is specifically we're here to talk about. What is alpha mining and everything that you're doing there?
Sure. So yes, I mean, really, the whole core of why we're pursuing this is simply because of Paraguay and what's down there, and what the country means and what it means to Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin. For us, the main impetus to be down there is because of the power cost in Paraguay. So because it houses the Itapu Dam. It is the world's second largest hydroelectric dam, second only to the Three Gorges Dam in China. And for about 20 years, it was actually the world's largest dam before the Three Gorges Dam was built in the 1990s. And so, because of that, the country produces an extreme amount of electricity, extreme amount of power, and it's all renewable, hydro generated power. Because of this, though, they actually create more power through that dam than what the country can actually consume. Paraguay actually only consumes about 10 to 30% of the power produced by the Itaipu Dam. So where does the rest go? Well, the dam was actually constructed by Paraguayans and in Paraguay, but it was funded by Brazil. And so the Brazilians came up with the money. And because of that, because they were the money partner, they have an agreement with Paraguay to get any power that is not used by the country of Paraguay to be sold to Brazil at an extremely low power cost. So it really extremely benefits Brazil. Brazil gets a significant chunk of its whole countrywide power from the Itaipu Dam, but they get it at just $7 a megawatt. So if you convert that into per kilowatt hour, that's 0.007 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's
Wow.
7/100ths of a cent per kilowatt hour. Insane. Because typically around the world, power cost is between 10 and 20 cents a kilowatt hour. So they're at 7/100ths of 1 cent when they sell it to Brazil. Very cheap. And this is because it's been an agreement since the 70s and they, can't break it. And so they have paid off finally, actually, as of 2023, they've fully paid off all of the financial burden that they had borrowed to create the dam from Brazil. So they've finished paying back Brazil, but it's still within their agreement to sell them power at that very cheap cost. And so if you actually do the math there, if you were to sell it to traditional citizens and businesses in Paraguay at around 3 cents a kilowatt hour, which is the average rate for industrial and residential. If you take that 7/100ths of a cent all the way to 3 cents, that is nearly a 400 times gain in profit when you
Wow.
sell it to the country and to the citizens itself. So it's in Paraguay's best interest to consume more and more of the electricity they produce, right? Because they can now sell that all at a much higher price. And so what we're doing is we're taking up on that and we want to further expand our business into the many, many megawatts by using the power that the Itaipu Dam produces. And in return, really upping the amount of profit that the country of Paraguay can make by selling the power to us and people like us. So that's why Paraguay has become such a Bitcoin-centric country. And Bitmain even themselves have said it's going to be the new Bitcoin capital of the world.
Wow. So I had an interview with another guys there in Paraguay that are called etios. They're doing the thing and they're locals. So
Uh-huh.
it's really interesting what they're doing there also. And you started this project, when did it started? Alpha mining, we started like all the evolution was in February or March, something like this.
So we started promoting it, actually teasing it, at the end of 2022, actually. So in
Okay.
October of 2022, I went out to Paraguay for the first time. I went out there with John and I met with Bert, John's cousin. And we got to meet some of his family. We got to just hang out and view the area. And we were really pursuing, what can we do down here? And it first started because we wanted to know, where could we form our company? Where do we want our headquarters to be? Sure, there's some business sense there, tax advantage, location advantage. But we're also like, if we pick another country besides the United States, well, what are the reasons? We need to have some additional reasons. And
Okay.
that's what led us into looking into, what does the country of Paraguay offer? It offers a very low power cost. So that obviously heavily motivated us to kickstart a Bitcoin mining operation. And second to that, we also noticed that it's very close to Bolivia, where our co-founder Bert, he actually used to operate an antimony refinery in Bolivia back
Okay.
in 2008 to 2014. And so because of that, we decided to pursue both ventures. Our upcoming round of NFTs is just for the Bitcoin mining side of things, but that's still influenced by our ability to make profit with this other venture as well, which we can get into in a moment. But it was all those factors combined, both a better tax advantage for our business, because the country of Paraguay is very good taxes, honestly, and also because the power cost and the proximity to Bolivia, and quite frankly, there is very cost-effective labor in Paraguay. So obviously, with it being somewhat in some areas a developing country, it's a lot easier and more cost-effective for us to scale and build these types of operations and still pay our employees that we're hiring. We're creating jobs down there and still pay them more than a competitor. So they're still going to make more, but it costs less than in the United States. So benefit to us, and we also get to help out families and people down there.
So this question was, it had a purpose because I wanted to show people that you have been working from last end of 22 to September, October. At this moment, you've been working hard to put in place a project that is already running. I know because I am an investor that AMCRs are already hashing. So what the people are going to buy later is something that is already producing money, already producing hashes and bitcoins, and you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait. You already know how all the previous stuff you already did it. So that's something that everyone needs to know.
No,
And after this, what is gonna happen with all this money that you're recollecting on the NFTs?
good point. And no, that's a great point. I mean, and that's why the reserve collection that we to kind of even finish that timeline, I went there in October. We decided to pursue this. We started developing the idea through October, November, December, and then come January, we started sharing it with the community, and we started teasing it and saying this is what we're looking to do soon. In February, we released our white paper, and in March, we dropped the first mint for Alpha Mining Co. Reserve. That mint ended up raising over the course of a few months, raised over $3 million or just about $3 million. And that was really a testament to show that we have what it takes to both sell this and, develop interest, and then to also now take those funds and apply them. And so you're absolutely correct. Since that time, we have developed our operations. We already have equipment down in Paraguay and hashing. We're producing Bitcoin and mining every single day now. And that's why the reserve holders, the people that minted this first $3 million, they get additional benefit because they had to wait. They minted maybe back in March, and it wasn't until, beginning of September that we started to get all of our equipment up and running. That's a 6-month lead time. That's a long time. They took additional risk. But now with our newest collection that's coming out, all we have to do is very swiftly, sell the NFTs, raise the money, and then go purchase equipment. And it's as fast as just a couple, I'd say 2 to 4 short weeks from the time we raise the money to the actual equipment being turned on. And that's because we've learned so much along the way. And we now have processes in place that enable us to quickly purchase miners directly at the manufacturer, Bitmain or WhatsMiner, have them delivered via air freight over to Paraguay. We know everything about the customs and clearance there now, and we can get it quickly over to our facility, turned on and hashing. And so that's the goal now. Yeah, with what we have coming up this Friday is it's our expansion collection. So it's to expand upon the existing hash rate. We're currently sitting at about 42,000 terahashes, and we want to make that bigger. And so after this next raise, we're going to be hitting right around, I think, 78,000 or 72,000 total terahashes. And it just goes up and up from there. So when we get through the final 4th tier, we'll be at 192,000 to 200,000 total terahashes. So roughly a 5 times increase from where we are right now.
Wow. So this tier 1 is how many? 3,000 NFTs?
Yeah, so there's going to be...
to sell?
Yep. There's 3,000 NFTs. The total expansion collection, Alpha Mining Co. in general, is 12,000, but it's separated into 4 tiers. So there's going to be the first tier at there's 3,000 NFTs. Every tier is 3,000 NFTs, starting at 250, going to 300 for the second tier, 350 for the third tier, at 400 for the final tier. So yes, it increases in price by $50 each time, incentivizing people to get in early.
And what is the advantage of being here early on tier 1?
Well, obviously you get the cost savings. So there's 2 things. For one, you're saving some money. If you were to mint tier 1 versus tier 2, in the end, you get the same NFT. You get the same utility of the NFT, which they all have the same share of hash rate. But what happens if you mint tier 1? Well, you're minting for $150 cheaper than tier 4. So you get the cost savings. But beyond that, we are going to be releasing these mints in chunks. And so as we release a mint, we mint through, we raise money, and we deploy that into more equipment. There is some lead time in between each phase, each tier. So if you get into the first tier, not only do you save money, but you also get to start producing rewards, Bitcoin rewards, much more quickly. So those both combined. Yeah.
Wow. I have a question, and I believe I know a lot of people want to ask you, and you probably can teach us about it. What does a terahash mean? Because there's a lot of people that don't know. Probably the people in the community. Everyone hears about a terahash, but what does that mean? And how you convert that in Bitcoin, or how does that work?
No, that's a great question.
Try to teach people, because I have a lot of questions about that in my Discord.
Yeah, that's a great question. So First, I'll kind of cater to the people that might have some sort of anchor somewhere else. So if you're looking at a computer, most people have bought a computer, right? And when you buy a new computer or you're looking to buy one, you'll see the specifications for the computer, the specs, right? You're going to
Okay.
see, oh, it's got this CPU. Oh, it's got this GPU. Oh, it has this RAM. And every computer component has speed associated with it. So a CPU is often measured in gigahertz. RAM is often measured in megahertz.
Okay.
GPUs have a different measurement. And so what those measurements are, though, are quite simply just the amount of transactions that a component can make per second. So how many times can it process an equation? And when you talk about traditional classical computing, like a CPU or a GPU, well, it's dealing with its own silicon chip, and it can process a wide variety of equations and problems. And that's how, with even the computer we're using right now to run the software that we're using to hop on this stream and to be here together, our computers have to process a lot of information and a lot of different types of information. That's why in the very beginning, Bitcoin was mined. If we all remember, go back in the day, Bitcoin was mined with just graphics cards, right? There were no ASICs. It was people would use their existing computers and they would mine Bitcoin. And what that means is that Bitcoin is built, and this does get a little complicated, so hopefully people can follow me along here, but it's really fun to talk about. Bitcoin is built off of an algorithm called the SHA 512 algorithm.
Wow.
The SHA 256 algorithm is also very similar, and it's a unique way. It's a mathematical equation to solve. It's a mathematical equation. It takes processing power to solve that equation. To mine a block of Bitcoin, which right now, each time you mine a block of Bitcoin, you earn 6.5 Bitcoins. So if you have enough processing hardware to ingest equations, mathematical equations, and then your hardware can process those equations, process those calculations, and spit out the end result, it is helping harness the power of the blockchain and process equations. It's a very complicated thing, but Bitcoin, the network of Bitcoin, runs off of just this simple algorithm. Back in the day, normal classical computers, so what we're both operating on right now, it can process those equations, but it takes a long time because these computers weren't built to process that SHA 512 algorithm. Instead, it's built to process many things. It's built to process your operating system, sound, graphics, stuff like that. And so people decided, let's build Bitcoin miners specifically for mining Bitcoin. So let's build computers that only do one thing, and they mine Bitcoin. And that is what an ASIC is, an ASIC. An ASIC stands for application specific integrated circuit. So it's basically saying that it's an integrated circuit, it's a hash board, it's a computer that is specific to one application. And that one application in this instance is mining Bitcoin. And
Okay.
how to mine Bitcoin is all about processing, and the way that they measure the amount of equations it can process per second is in something called terahashes. And so that's what a terahash is the higher the number of terahashes, the more equations, the more problems, the more answers it can give to an equation in a shorter period of time. And the more you can process, the more quickly you can mine Bitcoin. Because the way that it's kind of confusing, but when
Okay.
people mine together, everyone gets into what's called a pool. So they take their equipment and they all combine their equipment into one harnessed, processing brain. And they all process together and they all try and perform this SHA 512 algorithm together. And when they combined effort mine a block of Bitcoin with their combined processing power, they split those rewards. As I mentioned, right now, if you successfully mine a block, you earn 6.5 Bitcoin. But if there's 100 people all getting together, combining their hardware, and they mine that block, well, that 6.5 Bitcoin is split amongst those 100 people proportionally with how much power they put into it. So that's what a terahash is it's basically how many computations per second it can effectively process the algorithm. It's very
No,
confusing.
No, it's confusing, but everyone talks about it, and probably the people that are watching or they will watch it later, they don't know anything about it, and they say, okay, after hashing, it they do it like it's okay, normal, but they don't know
Yeah.
it, and it's important everyone to know it. And I know something, uh, when you have this equipment in that pool, it's an advantage for everyone. Just check it out. If you have 252 ASICs ant miners at the moment, and one of those are breaks up, the other 251 are working. So the advantage probably is a question for you. What is the advantage of being inside this project and not having your miner on your own?
Well,
Yes,
the
you
diff.
have
Well,
your miner here, and probably you have those. You participate in that big pool.
well,
Probably.
I mean, yeah, for us, what we have to manage that pool relationship, right? So we're actually in a pool called Luxor Pool, and that Luxor Pool actually has, millions of terahashes in combined effort. And so it can, as a combined group of people, it could mine a lot of Bitcoin very quickly. But the way that you also have to think about it is that the more people trying to mine Bitcoin, the less Bitcoin there is to go around. It's mathematically constrained so that only a certain amount of Bitcoin can actually be mined per year, per interval. And so, if let's say it's 100 Bitcoin in a year, just for easy math. If there's one person mining it, well, that one person is going to mine all 100 Bitcoin that year, right? But if there's 100 people mining it and they all are equally mining it with the same amount of hardware, then they all each earn 1 Bitcoin per year. But the reason Bitcoin has a price and it goes up is because more and more people are willing to spend their money to mine this token, to mine this currency. And that's what proof of work actually means, is they're proving that their money and this hardware is going to suck up electricity and we're going to spend money to create this token. And that's actually what gives Bitcoin its value, is miners. There's also speculative value, so people buy it and there's demand for it. That also changes price. But the main function of price from Bitcoin actually comes from what's called proof of work, which we're very familiar with, which is how many
Yeah.
people are currently looking to aid the network by mining. When you buy our NFT, though, you don't have to worry about any of that. So that's the value here that we're providing, is that what we are doing is our NFTs basically become virtual miners. They become passive, virtual, non-physical miners that they each have their own terahash. So they have their own hash rate. The same as when you buy equipment. Right now, we got to go source equipment. We have to spend a lot of money, find that equipment, buy it. But that's just the first step. We then have to go and process freight and duties and taxes, importing it, getting through customs, getting it set up, having setup costs like first power deposit, like getting an actual infrastructure ready to get the equipment plugged in and turned on. Then we have to go through the complexity of overclocking or optimizing the equipment. Once we get there, though, which someone that holds one of our NFTs, they don't have to do any of that. They just buy the NFT, the work is on us, and then in return, we fractionalize 80% of the Bitcoin that's mined. So the net Bitcoin, we take 20% off the top, 80% of it gets split amongst people that hold an NFT. So your NFT, in essence, becomes a little virtual miner that requires absolutely no work, and it becomes a passive income asset for you. So that's the benefit
The
of how an NFT.
and the advantages for this is if it's you have to do any maintenance, the other NFT, the other miners are working for you also. If you have it in your house, your miner, you have to do all that work that you're telling me. And if it breaks down, you have to wait till it is in maintenance and come back and then work again. But that
Exactly.
period of time, you lose that the effectiveness of the work. That's
Yep.
something that I appreciate about being part of the NFTs.
Yep. You're
And
absolutely right.
that's that. I have a next question about it, because a lot of people are asking, how does halving work? Because it's supposed to be in April next year, but
Yep.
it happened some time ago. Probably people want to know what is going to happen when this halving is coming, and what does that mean for everyone.
Perfect question. Very good question. And the halving is actually another one of those. And these are really good questions, Bernie. I appreciate this. Most other people don't ask me questions like this, but this is the fun stuff to talk about. The halving is actually part of when I mentioned that there's actually mathematical constraints to Bitcoin mining, where only a certain amount of Bitcoin can be mined every interval. You could pick whatever interval you want. You could say every hour, you could say every year, but only a certain amount can be mined. You can't mine more than what the network says you can, and that's due to mathematic constraints. What those part of those mathematical constraints, part of the algorithm is that it says every 4 years, and it's actually when Bitcoin hits a certain epoch, so a certain block, it will go ahead and cut the rewards in half. So every 4 years, this happens. So this is going to be the fourth halving event, I believe, if I remember correctly. I mean, Bitcoin's been around since, fourth. And so if you go back in time, Bitcoin right now produces 6.5 Bitcoin per block. That means that 4 years ago, or about 3.5 years ago, it was producing 13 Bitcoin. Yep. And before that, it was 26. And before that, it would be, 52. Yep. And so when it started, you could produce far more Bitcoin when you mined it. And so that's why everyone has those stories, hey, I bought a graphics card. I put it in my mom's basement and I mined like dozens of Bitcoin. It was net worth nothing. Part of this constraint, this mathematical constraint that causes Bitcoin to become more scarce, which means that in 1 year, you'll have 56 Bitcoin mined per block, and you're going to have, thousands of blocks mined a year. So you're going to have a lot of Bitcoin created at the beginning. But as you go at every 4 years, less and less and less Bitcoin is created. Which, what does that mean from traditional economics, supply demand? Well, supply has gone far down. But because Bitcoin has taken off as something that is very high in demand, that means that every time the supply gets constrained, but demand remains the same, if not increases, what does price do? Price goes through the roof. And so if you look at historical trending analysis of previous Bitcoin halving events, every single time Bitcoin goes through a halving event, it's trailed with a new all-time high. So we saw in the previous cut back in 2019, we saw Bitcoin reach a new all-time high of over $60,000 in 2020, 2021 time. And that's because it always follows this trend of if Bitcoin becomes more scarce, then you have more purchasing power to purchase it. And so that's what we're playing up on is when the Bitcoin halving happens, a couple things will happen. For one, we will mine less Bitcoin. We will mine about half the amount of Bitcoin as we had mined before, because that's what happens. We also have an expansion plan in place where we're going to consistently be reinvesting into our business and constantly buying more miners. So if we were to stay the same, if we were to only have a certain amount of miners, well, then we'd cut our production in half, and that's all that would happen. We're going to be consistently growing, though. And so we hope to achieve soon after the halving event, double the capacity that we might have had at the end of this year. And when that happens, sure, we'll be mining half of what we would have before, but we'll have twice the amount of equipment. So we'll still be mining very well. The component that makes sense here and that we're excited about is the fact that Bitcoin always shoots to a new all-time high after. So it's in our best interest right now. While every block spits out 6.5 Bitcoin, we want to mine as much as we can up until April, because then the goal is to stack that Bitcoin. And this is what I also would suggest to anybody that holds a miner or one of our NFTs: stack the Bitcoin, hold on to it, and wait for Bitcoin to hit a new all-time high. Let's say 100 grand. I'm very confident that in the end of 2024, possibly into 2025, and it could even happen sooner in 2024, Bitcoin will hit 100 grand. And so if you were to sell right now at 25,000, you can make some profit. But if you were to wait until it hits 100,000, now you've 4x'd what your potential gain is. And so that's our goal, is to mine as much as we can, and then the price will increase, and then we can sell. When the Bitcoin halving happens, you might mine less, be half, but typically the price of Bitcoin does more than double. So if you look at it from a dollar standpoint, your productivity will be half, but the value of that will be 4-5 times. So the end result is going to be higher than it was before.
Yeah, okay, that's right. And let's say we start just hashing when the NFTs are sold. first question: the NFTs should receive this money in how much time are you expecting to receive the minting to be over of this phase one?
Phase one, I mean, it could happen as soon as within a day or two. I'm not sure. I mean,
Uh,
we had $3 million worth of mints happen with reserve, and this is only a total of about 750,000. So there's a good chance that it's going to happen very, very quickly.
I
But
believe
I
so.
guess time will tell.
I can bet for a week as much, but I think it will be less than that, because for people that don't know, when there were some NFTs from the reserve part that were sold, they took them out in one AMA on a Monday, and 30 minutes after they were sold, and there were
Yeah.
70 or 80, I don't know, remember, but it was like crazy. They went
Yep.
sold in like crazy. But okay, so the next part is you receive that money, and how many bitcoins or do you expect an NFT to receive each month? I don't know if we can talk about that, or I don't know how can you do this math for people to invest. They're investing $250, and how much money will they receive probably the each month in Bitcoin? Or I don't know how you can explain that.
No, it's a really good question, and we get this one often. I kind of have to walk a fine line about this because we really want to not be seen as a regulated entity and have a regulated offering. And part of the way to make sure that we don't do that is by not promising returns, right? At the end of the day, we're not saying, hey, if you invest X amount of dollars with us, you'll receive Y amount of dollars back. It's pretty illegal to say that. And so we're not going to say
Yeah.
that. But what we do say is, hey, we're building a farm and you can help us build this farm by buying these NFTs. And when you buy these NFTs, we're going to convert your NFT into a fractional owner of our farm. And the way that we do that is we fractionalize the hash rate. And so what we do is we take the total amount of miners that we buy and that we add to the farm. So let's say at the end of this round, it'll be about 200,000 total terahashes. And then we divide that up into the NFTs. So the NFTs
Okay.
end up getting their own hash rate. We also divide up the total power draw. So when we divide that up, we find that a AMC NFT that are selling this Friday, they will have about 7 to 8 terahashes per NFT, and it will have about a 250-watt power draw. Many different Bitcoin mining calculators. You can go to Coin Wars, you can go to ASIC miner value, you can go to whatever you want, and it actually allows you to plug in hash rate, wattage for power draw, power cost, and then it calculates everything else for you. So you can put in there 3 cents per kilowatt hour power cost, which is what we get in Paraguay. You can put in that your NFT will be about 8 terahashes, 8 terahashes, and then you can put in the power draw at 250 watts. That will tell you at the current moment, with the current network difficulty, with what's happening in the Bitcoin mining industry, how much Bitcoin that will produce. And that is going to be very rough to what you will receive by owning this NFT. And so I don't want to go about into the numbers of things because it is very difficult and things might change. People that are into Bitcoin mining understand this, but I will give you, if you're okay, a scenario that I actually ran last night that I think exemplifies what you're looking to hear here. You want me to go into that?
Yeah, please. I'm asking this because people are probably wanting to know.
Sure, yeah. So what I ran was I ran a model and I put it together in Excel and I put it together with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is such a good help at kind of organizing things for me when my thoughts are going crazy. But I
Okay.
asked it a question and I said, "Hey, I want to know the difference between these two scenarios, person A and person B. Person A is somebody that says, I have $10,000 and I want to buy Bitcoin. And let's say they buy it today, September 27th, 2023, and they take their 10,000 and they buy the Bitcoin. They'd receive about, at current prices, about 0.38 Bitcoin. Okay. Now, person B will take that same 10,000 and they will buy our NFTs. And if they
Okay.
do that, they will receive 40 NFTs, right?
So,
When they
yeah.
receive those 40 NFTs, I then had a model ran where I calculated knowing what our farm hash rate is going to be after this raise and also what it's going to be in the near future over a period of time. And I was very conservative with it too. And what I found out is I asked ChatGPT, if you were to extend out a year, so go from September 27th of this year of 2023 to September 27th of 2024, which person would make it out on top? Which one would be better off? And I asked it that, and I said, assume that Bitcoin price come September of 2024 is $100,000. So someone buys it now at $25,000, $26,000 Bitcoin price, and they hold on to it until it becomes 100 grand in 1 year. Well, person A will have spent 10,000. They would have received 0.38 Bitcoin. And when it becomes September of 2024, they would sell that 0.38 Bitcoin, and 0.38 times 100,000 means that they sell it for $38,000. So they've made $28,000, right? Because they invested 10 and they sell it for 38. Person B, if they buy our NFTs, they will have produced over that period of time, over that year, between 0.22 and 0.26 Bitcoin. So it just depends on, a few different factors. It could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less. But if you were to factor that in, 0.22 or 0.26 Bitcoin at 100,000 Bitcoin price a year later would be worth between $22,000 and $26,000 a piece, right?
Yes.
Perfect. But you also hold the NFTs. And the NFTs at that point, NFTs, as we know, they have value if they are actually productive, if they actually do something. And so your NFTs aren't going to be just a sunk cost where you buy 0.38 Bitcoin and that's all you can do is sell that 0.38 Bitcoin. That's what happens. But with the person B scenario, they over a year earned about $25,000 worth of Bitcoin just by holding the NFT and doing nothing, not having to buy, not having to check anything, just claiming and holding. Their NFTs, though, and this is using a very, very conservative, what's called DCF, which is discounted cash flow. So it's a traditional business calculation for determining the price of an investment. It says that these NFTs will be worth about $500. If it produces X amount of Bitcoin in a year, someone would be willing to spend about $500 on this NFT. I think that's very conservative. I think that these NFTs, if it's producing that much Bitcoin, could be worth well more than that. But let's just use that. At $500, that person owns 40 of them because they spent 10,000 at 250. So now they have $20,000 worth of NFTs and they've made $25,000 in Bitcoin. So that person comes out on top. They technically have about a $55,000 investment, whereas when they bought just Bitcoin, they ended up with $38,000. So that's really the benefit of this, is that you get to earn Bitcoin passively. It's going to consistently produce. You can sell that Bitcoin if you want, but you're not going to be exiting your position. You're going to keep producing. You can hold on to it for another year and produce another 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 Bitcoin with that same investment. So that's really the value here, is that we expect in a year the amount of Bitcoin produced with Bitcoin hitting those levels to fully pay back your investment. And we also expect that those NFTs will be worth quite a bit.
And I want to add to that because I have my own experience. I bought my reserve NFTs for $1,000. At this time, it's close to $1,500, $1,500, $1,400, something like that. Depends on the price you can sell it. So I've earned in 2 months or 3 months 40%.
Absolutely,
that's a lot, and this can happen to the others. Left? No, we're already back. So no, but I'm here. Have you hear me?
There we go. I hear you now. Yeah, I just messaged you, but it just froze for a second.
No, so I wanted to thank you. I don't have any more questions. We were supposed to have like a half an hour, but it went really nice talking to you and meeting you in person.
However long you want this to be, I am happy to support you and your channel. We're going to be posting this all over. You've been a big support to us, Bernie, that, the least I can do is give you however much time you need. No constraints here. So if you have any more questions too, I'm happy to answer anything.
I don't know if anyone in the audience have questions, but I imagine they're just, there's gonna come a lot of questions in comments later. If I don't know how to answer them, I will call you and ask for help. But I
Perfect.
think this is great, and I wanted just to show my support and to tell everyone that this is a great opportunity that I've been investing in. It is not financial advice, but it's really a stupid thing not to be in here. That's
Well,
for my experience. I've been earning already 30%, and you're starting to hash. So
Well, thank you, Bernie. I mean, it's been such an immense amount of work. It's been a massive learning experience. We have learned so much doing this, and it's been, quite a big endeavor. But we wouldn't be able to do it without an awesome community like we have. We wouldn't be able to do this without people like you helping support us, helping us spread the word. And so, as much as I hear often that people are very proud of our team, they're very proud of us. I'm also
yeah.
very proud of our team. But I'm more proud about our community. We wouldn't be able to do this type of project without the awesome people like you and the people listening. So thank you so much, Bernie, for having me up here today.
No, and you know something that you do in the AMAs. I recommend everyone to hear them on Mondays. I don't have time to hear Monday and the NFT alpha shares. I have to be honest. But when you speak there and you speak with Randy and you explain details after detail of everything, it's really clear what you're doing, and it's transparent. And that's what I like about the project, because someone asked me today, is that a secure project? I don't know if it's a secure project. It's an okay project, but it's transparent, and everything that you're speaking there is really what is happening. Is when you have problems with the equipment, with the exhaust problem you had some time ago, you told us, and it was really, oh great, they're having problems and they're solving them. that's
Absolutely.
that's something that I like, and I appreciate about your team. And you're clear. I English is not my native language, but I understand everything that is happening. Everything. And I
That's
imagine
awesome.
everyone else is having the same experience.
Awesome. Well, that's excellent feedback. That's exactly what we want to hear. We hope to be, and I hope to personally be, the most transparent founder that there is in the space. I don't know why this space is plagued by people that decide to hide things. There's no reason to hide anything. There are sometimes issues that come up, like you mentioned. There's exhaust solutions, there's customs, there's duties, there's freight, there's transport, there's timeline delays. We might say one thing, but something else might happen. But the important part is explaining to the community why that other thing happened. Don't lie about it. Don't fib. Don't joke. It's just straight up honesty, transparency. You guys are coming along this wild ride with me, so you get to see it all.
Huh. I know. And Latin American people are always saying, I'm going tomorrow, and they come 2 weeks after. And that
That's
happened last week.
you are exactly true. That is exactly right, and we're finding that out more and more. It's in Paraguay, it's Paraguay time. It's
No,
not
no,
it's not anyone else's time. It's Paraguay time.
I know. The same happens here in Colombia, so I know how it works. So I
Yeah.
appreciate your time. I say hi to Randy. I say hi to John, to all your team. And every time you want to come back to the channel and talk to Latin American people to hear you, I will be more than welcome to have you here.
We'll have to do it
So
again very soon.
yeah,
Thank you so
I
much, Bernie.
as soon as we have excellent results, I will be here. Okay.
Perfect.
So bye
Perfect.
bye, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bernie.
Bye.
Bye bye.